the difference. Is that better for you? It's so much more comfortable for me.
So what questions are you tired of hearing today?
I'm tired of hearing, what is it like to be famous? Or no, or that I can't walk down the street because I'm so famous.
Okay.
I should be so lucky.
Go for it. Okay, no, Julia, this movie talks about being famous, being recognized. Weird places for an actor to be recognized. If you're in the ladies' room, how unnerving is that for someone to recognize you there and start a conversation?
Well, I don't mind striking up a conversation in the ladies' room unless I am in the stall, and then it's a bit disconcerting.
Well, how do you handle that if that does occur?
You, as politely as you can, say, "Give me a minute."
Julia, I'd like to pick up where we left off last time. Last time we spoke, after the interview, I got up and I banged my head into the light that was right above my head, and you reached over and you grabbed my arm and said, "I'm so sorry, I should have warned you about that." And I looked down and I thought, Julia Roberts is holding my hand. And it was kind of a nice moment. I tell that story at parties when things get boring. But I'm just wondering, when you meet people, if someone rides an elevator with you, they're probably telling that story for years, how I rode an elevator with Julia Roberts. Is it a little hard when people are so hyper aware of being present with you?
I don't think I'm as conscious of it as you would be if you were in an elevator with me with someone who was thinking, I'm in an elevator with Julia, this is cool. You know, I'm not really aware of it, I don't think.
Yeah. Is it a little hard when you see people staring at you out of the corner of their eyes? Is it a little unnerving for you?
Yeah, I had a lady staring at me at the bus stop the other day, and she was staring at me with this really not very nice look on her face, and she kept sort of looking me up and down, and so finally I was just kind of staring back at her, you know? And then she came over to me and she had the sweetest voice, and she said, "I'm sorry, but you just look so much like Julia Roberts." And it was so sweet, and I said, "Well, I am." She was like, and then she chatted with me on the bus. Then when she got off, she was like waving at me as the bus was driving away. She was really sweet, but we got off on a bad foot. She was giving me the evil eye.
I'm just curious, when you fly on an airplane, I mean, I'm sure most fans that you meet are very polite and respectful. But have you ever been trapped on an airplane with the seatmate from hell next to you, the guy who's going, "Hey, pretty woman," walking down the street, the guy who just won't shut up?
I'm a big sleeper on planes. Planes to me guarantee naps. So people that wake me up annoy me. People that wake me up so they can say, "I don't mean to bother you. First time I slept in a week. What do you want?" You know, that annoys. But no, I've never been next to somebody who wouldn't stop talking. Or you just turn to them and go, "Hi, thanks."
Right, Julia, today you and I rode up in the elevator together. I was coming from the health club and I walked in and I looked around and I go, that looks like Julia Roberts. I'm just curious, when people see you, do they usually instantly recognize you, or do they often say, you look a lot like Julia Roberts?
It's usually the latter.
And how do you react to that?
Well, it's usually, do people ever tell you you look just like Julia Roberts? To which I will say, yeah. And then it can sort of go on, and then it can like turn into a long, and then you finally just say, well, yes, I am, and then it turns into, no, you're not. And then you find yourself, like, what do you do? Like, get out your driver's license and try to prove that, no, I am who I say I am.
How often are you curious just to go to a regular screening of one of your films and walk in anonymously with sunglasses and just see how people react to one of your movies?
Well, it's always more fun to see any movie with folks. And I saw this movie with an audience, and I just kind of ducked in at the last minute before the movie started. And it was really fun to be able to participate with them in their excitement. And the funniest part was afterwards, they were asking the audience questions about the movie, and they hand out cards that you're supposed to fill out. And this guy goes, "I'm not filling out a card. That's bullshit. It's excellent. Why do I have to fill out a card?" And so I thought that was just fine.
A few years ago, actually, after Pretty Woman and Sleeping with the Enemy came out, I went into a magazine store with a friend, and I counted, I think, 16 magazines that had your face on the cover throughout the thing. And it made me flash back to when Farrah Fawcett was really huge with Charlie's Angels. and I thought, geez, how does anyone endure being on that many magazine covers?
Mm.
How did you feel when you walked into a store and saw your face like splattered about everywhere?
I've never walked into a store and seen my face on 16 magazines. I think I'd probably faint. I'd collapse from, just the shock of it. But it doesn't, as long as it's a nice picture, then it's just fine.
Okay. You've had a really interesting life, and you're only like 30, 31. I'm just curious, at some point, would you ever consider writing an autobiography?
No. How egomaniacal. I'm so interesting. Read about me. No, fiction's definitely the way to go.
Julie, I've always been fascinated with the jobs that actors have before they become actors. Now, didn't you used to work in an athletic footwear store?
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Sold a lot of tennis shoes.
yeah. Now, how good were you at that job?
Very good. Very good at lacing, I might say. Adidas Country, the biggest selling shoe ever. Yeah, I was good at that job. I actually ran into a guy that I worked at that store with the other day.
Oh.
It was funny.
I've always been a fan of your brother's, some great movies he's done. Now, when you made your movie debut opposite him, how intimidated were you, or was that just a very fun experience for you?
Well, it was, I was sort of a glorified extra. I mean, I wouldn't say I was opposite him. I was sort of over in the back behind the chair in the corner, and yeah, there. So it was more just a lark. I mean, it had nothing to do really with the work or whatever, because it was sort of no kind of a part. It was just a lark.
Now, a lot of talk's been given lately about one of your movies, about whether it'll ever be made into a sequel. But when you look at movies that you've done, which films do you think would lend themselves to a sequel?
Well, I'm not a sequel fan. I'm not a sequel girl. I'm a real advocate of leave well enough alone, So, I mean, not that I sort of think that people that do them are doing any harm, because I certainly go see sequels from time to time. But for my own experience, I'm fine with the way things are left.
Okay. I'm just curious, when it comes to the commercial viability of your films, do you feel like a pressure that every film has to be a huge box office hit?
No. Because it's something completely out of anyone's control. If we could control it at all, wouldn't all movies be huge hits, And whether a movie that I am in makes $1 zillion or $20, it doesn't change why I did it, how much I invested in it, and the quality of how I tried to portray a character. So it's secondary to the reasons why I do what I do.
I'm looking forward to your Law & Order appearance in May. Now, how did that come about exactly?
Well, I started it. I had said to Benjamin a long time ago, because I loved the show, and I said, I want to be on the show with you. And he had mentioned it to the powers that be, and finally something came up, and they offered me this part, and it was a great part, and it afforded me a lot of scenes with Benjamin, which I really liked, and it was a really great sort of twisting and turning story, and it was their big 200th episode, and I went off and did it, and it was the hardest work I've ever done in my life, and it was gas. I loved every minute of it.